Welcome. This is my video for you to unlock and unstick and deepen your relationship with your hips. And with hips, I mean the hip joint, which is right here in your pelvis. And I'm just going to show you three very simple and easy things to do on a daily basis. If you choose to do that, I'd recommend that at the beginning, or maybe just 3 to 4 times a week. It doesn't take long, and I promise it will give you a whole new appreciation for healthy and juicy hips. All right, so let's get started. I have a little strap here. We sell this at Rise Pilates. It has loops, which is a little bit easier to grip. We also use this for a lot of shoulder work that we're doing. But you can use a belt, you can use a scarf, a yoga strap, anything like that. So we're going to come onto our backs first. And I have a little pillow here for my head because I just want to be comfy as I can be while I'm working my hips. Now, you have probably already seen, and if you have not, I will briefly reiterate my pelvis and abdominal video. So what we're doing here is first is we want to create stability in the hips, in the pelvis. So that is your two hip bones and your sacrum, which is the last part of your spine. They are fused together, those vertebrae. And they're building this unit that is called your pelvis. And your pelvis can rock in all kinds of different directions. It can rock away from your face and it can rock towards your face. It can rock away from your face and towards your face. Let's do this a couple of times together. It's going to rock away from your face and towards your face. And we want to observe. I'd love for you to check in and see, are you moving both hip bones at the same time with one another? Because sometimes, for most people, one hip is much quicker or one hip is stuck, a little bit more stuck. Because we never pay attention really to our hip bones. Nobody's ever asked us to. So we're going to rock forward and backward. Now, granted, if you have any pain in the forward, you're going to go only to the point of where you don't feel pain. Right? So this is really just exploring the ranges of motion in your pelvis. And then you can rock right and left. Again, making that right hip a little heavier. It's not about the knees dropping out to the side, but just a little bit of side to side. And we call this 9 o'clock when your right hip gets to be heavy and 3 o'clock when your left hip gets to be heavy. So just imagining you have a clock on your pelvis. You can go 6 o'clock and then back to center, neutral, and then you can go 9 o'clock and come back to neutral. Then you can go 12 o'clock. The pelvis tilts towards your face and back to center. And then you can go 3 o'clock and back to center. Let's actually do a full pelvic clock. This is not easy, but this is a really good exercise. It's a Feldenkrais exercise. I did not come up with that. And so you're going to just trace the clock with your pelvis. And this might take a little bit. Just saying, this is not an easy task. Observe if you want to do this from your rib cage and your shoulders, because this might very well be the case. We don't generally have a lot of movement abilities in our pelvis and way more in our head, neck, and rib cage and shoulders, mostly as a compensation for a lack of ability in the hip. Let's move the other direction, breathing, and just see if you can trace a circle with your hip. Take your time. You don't have to do 20, 2 or 3 in each direction would be really great. because I want to move the hip a little bit first before we starting to stabilize the hip. And stabilization you've learned already in the abdominal video. So if you have not watched that video, I would recommend to go back to that. Just because I don't want to reiterate all of that, because today we're going to look at our hip sockets, right? Okay, so here I have our rise strap, and I'm going to put that behind my thigh bone, right below, well, above the knee. And I'm just going to let my leg hang in that. And you're going to lower the leg down. So here are my little loops. This is kind of very comfy. And then I'm going to keep the elbows down, and I'm going to use my biceps. So I'm going to lift my leg up with the power of my arm. I'm not going to lift the leg up and this is loose, right? The strap is tight and you're lifting the leg up. You're dropping the thigh bone into the hip socket. So stay here for a moment. Observing, did you move your hip into 12 o'clock, which is the tuck, to lift your leg up, or can you keep your leg in keep your pelvis in your 6 o'clock or neutral position to lift the thigh bone and fold right in here into the socket. And you can even put one hand there and feel that you are actually kind of decreasing the space. You're folding. There is more of a drop happening, and there should be really no tension or tightness in this area here. We're just going to fold and fold. Very important, because most of us, we're sitting behind our sits bones or more in a tucked position, which is kind of the sofa, the lazy boy, the car, a chair, an office chair. Most people do not have this folding ability in their hips anymore. And I would argue this is where the problem with our hip replacement epidemic starts, really, because there's no nutrient distribution. We're stuck in one place. We're wearing down the joint because of a lack of good mobility. So keep the leg lifted here, and then let's do a couple of circles. And I want you to really make a small circle here. You're using your arms to create the circle with your leg. My pelvis is not moving. If it's moving a little bit, that's okay. But if you're already in tune with what your abdominals can do, try to keep your hip bones pulled towards one another using those internal obliques. And we're just going to make, and this is my favorite image of all times, guacamole in the hip, or salsa, or mashed potatoes, whatever you like. Because the hip socket is a very round joint. It is perfectly round. The ball of the femur, keep rotating, is very round, and the socket fits exactly that round femur. And when we can move in a circular motion, that is just absolutely bliss for your hip. So lowering the leg down and just feel that. You might feel nothing. I personally can feel that I have a little bit more width on this side. Extend both legs for a moment and just feel that difference. And at the beginning, it is a little bit hard. Most people, we're just not aware of the intricacies of their bodies because we're just programmed to feel pain and no pain. But you might feel that there is a little bit more length and softness, maybe in your quad, a little bit more length in the leg, a little bit more width, and a drop in your low back towards the earth. So that would be all good stuff. Let's do the same thing on the other side. You're going to Just hook your leg into the band, and then we're going to fold the leg into the socket, folding. Let your leg hang, relax the shoulders, really make sure it's more like your arm muscle that picks up the leg. You're bending your elbow. Try not to shrug your shoulders up to your ears. And just do this tiny little fold. And really thinking about heaviness. This is, again, we're looking for this crease to tighten. It's like if you put your fingers right where your thigh bone and your hip bone, your ASIS, that protruding part of your pelvis meet, and as you fold the leg up, you are squishing literally your fingers. This is what needs to happen here. Just a little bit, right? And then you're going to keep the leg lifted, and we're going to make little circles. Using your arms, not your leg. Try not to move your pelvis and go slow. Breathing. Circling. Making your guacamole. And I like to actually think I am distributing my nutrients, my synovial fluid, my lymph. This is a really big lymph node spot, your hip crease. And to pump the lymph out of our bodies, lymph is our detoxifier. This is your sewer system of the body. You want this area here in the inguinal to be very pumpable, flowable, right? We want, there should be no stagnation here for many, many reasons. But one of the reasons is once the sewer is clogged, you're not a happy camper, right? So both directions, enjoying that movement in the joint. Feels like nothing maybe, or maybe it just feels good. There should be no pain whatsoever in your hip. If there's pain, something's up. And then lower the leg down, take a little feel. I say that a lot, take a feel. I say that with purpose. A feel is different than a feeling. And then extend both legs and feel. And just acknowledge there is a change. I'm arguing there will be a change for you. Okay, so we lubricated our hip joint, and now we're going to glide or slide onto your side for another little hip awakening. So we're going to, so you're going to lie on your side. We're going to bend the knees, and this is going to be the little bit of a fetal position. So that means that you're rounding your upper body. You're going to want to see your knees here. And we're going to bring the top hip in line with the bottom hip. And this is really important that you're maybe even take your top hand and glide or move the hip a little forward and set your ribs a little bit backward. Because if your hip is too far back and if you're too hyperextended, the next thing we're going to do, you will not feel the way you need to feel it for it to really make a difference for your pelvis strength, mobility, pain, whatever. So rounding the spine, you're going to want to see your knees and you're going to take the top hip a little forward. So this is where, again, that abdominal video is very helpful because you want to be able to align your hips, your 3 o'clock and your 9 o'clock with one another. And you're going to pull the top hip to the bottom hip. And that is a little engagement in your stomach with your internal obliques. Keep your top hand at your hip bone here and suggest it a little bit forward, relaxing the shoulder, and then you're going to pick up your top knee. And this is, and you can see this is a very small lift. And you're going to lower it back down. You're going to lift the knee, and you're going to lower it back down. So this is what we call external rotation. You should be feeling this in your butt. This is talking to the 6 external rotators of your hip. They're very tiny muscles comparison to your glutes or your hamstrings. So they only produce a very small movement. Do not think you need to do like this here, right? This is not what we're looking for. It's very small, but very localized in your glute. Your knee might not lift at all, just saying. Don't worry about it. You practice this, it's going to lift. Make sure your kidneys are back, diaphragm is back, and you're doing this tiny little lift. Also, double check if you're using your heel or your foot kind of to help you. You do not want to do that. The foot is relaxed, everything else is really relaxed, and you're just using the rotators here. Okay, so 5 to 10, that's all. And then we're going to keep that top hip and you're just going to lift the leg up. And you're going to lower the leg down. Now we're going to see if we can lift the knee, the shin, and the foot in one movement. You don't want to lead with the foot. You don't want to lead with the knee. One move. And you might want to put yourself in, like get yourself a little mirror there. Or maybe the glass of a window or door, just something where you can see how am I lifting my foot up? Because since I'm not there, but you can absolutely feel that for yourself and correct that for yourself. I'm giving you just the information. Now I'm lifting really high here. You might just be here. Also observe, is your foot cramping? Right? We want to not flex the foot or get really tense in the arch. I want to try and get my foot to be really relaxed. Let's do one more, and then we're going to add one little bit on. We're going to take that leg back. So the knee is bent, and you're going to keep your kidneys and diaphragm back, your top hip forward, and just feel your butt working. And then swing the leg forward and lower down. You're going to lift, and you're going to use your butt muscles, and you might not feel them. You can put your hand onto your glute and feel, is there contraction happening? Is there a little tone happening? Pulling your thigh bone into the socket as we did previously. Keep that in there and then swing the leg forward and lower down. Lift and coming back, diaphragm, kidneys, broad strap area back. Keep rounding your spine. It's not going to be big. And then do one more. Breathing in and out, relaxing the shoulders, the jaw, and feeling your butt working. And maybe, probably even this here, which is, of course, your gluteus medius has to work here. Beautiful. So let's go ahead, lie on your back and feel and be amazed by how different this feels to your other side. The length of the leg, the relaxation of the leg, and you're probably even feeling a little bit of a tingle or just activity in your glute muscles, which is perfect. Okay, so let's do the other side. So lying on your side, sticking your butt out. This is my 6 o'clock. I'm taking my diaphragm back. This is my rounded spine. I might see my knees. Just the microphone to the other side. So we have good audio. And so butt sticks out, diaphragm back, feet are aligned, and you're going to take your top hand and bring your top hip just a little forward. But again, we want to the ribs. And you're going to pick up the knee and lower down. And you're going to pick up the knee and lower down. So again, feeling I am pulling the thigh bone into the socket of the hip. I'm not moving my pelvis. I'm only picking up that knee just the tiniest bit. Now, if you were a ballerina in a previous life or in your early years, you might have a little bit more rotation. But most of us, we don't. I would argue even ballerinas might not even have that crazy of a rotation. They just can't fake it really well. So tiny lift, be good with that. 2 and 1. Very good. You feel this really nicely in here. And then we're keeping our hips still aligned. And I'm going to lift my top leg up and I'm folding it into the socket here now. And release. And lifting. And lowering. Pulling it in, relaxing the foot. See how the foot is really, my foot is really hanging here. I don't want to be here and tense everything. That's a different exercise, which we sometimes do. But for now, this is really just pumping in the hip, moving the thigh bone on the socket to the outside of the hip joint. And then here it moves to the inside of the hip joint. And outside of the hip joint. So there's a little bit of a pivot happening. Very important. And one more. We're lifting, and then we're going to go back. Keep your diaphragm, blah, and using your glute muscles to swing the leg back and forward and down. Foot is relaxed, knee, shin, and foot lift in one plane. And I'm going back, but feel it. Is it working? It might not feel like a whole lot. And the more you practice this, the more you will feel what's happening here. Also, the more you'll be cognizant of how much your shoulders want to do here, or your rib cage, or your jaw, or your eyebrows. So it's really about giving yourself some grace around this. The method works. You just keep doing it. It will show itself. We have to learn how to crawl first before we run. And a good base, a good foundational knowledge and ability will always pay off in the long run. Last one. Finding your breath. And lower down. I'm going to undo my double pillow, lie on your back, and just feel your legs. Feel your hip. And generally, everybody is amazed the first time they do this exercise because they're saying, wow, how can such a small move and such little stuff make such a profound change? And this is just how beautifully and wonderfully the body works and orients and aligns itself. All right, so this was my little 3 exercise hip refresher. I hope you liked it. Do this every day if you want to. You can safely do this every day. You can do it every other day, whatever your time permits. And I'd love to hear how it's going for you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye.